Hey crafty people, welcome back to my channel, and in case you're new here, I'm Sarah, also known as Craft Nerd because I'm a nerd who loves to craft. I do paper crafting, card making, junk journaling, and mixed media art. Let's get crafting! Welcome back for another technique time video, and today I want to do some techniques using embossing folders, and this is the first one we're going to do is one that's like everywhere these days, and it's the blackout technique. And so this is the Simon Says stamp embossing folder. I'll leave the name of it down below. I've already gone ahead and embossed it. And when you emboss, you've got two sides. You've got the raised side, which is the embossed side, and then the depressed side, which is the debossed side. So we're going to be working with the debossed side. I'm going to grab some distress inks and put it on. I've got glass block over here, and so I've got some Rustic Wilderness, a little bit of pine needles, and some forest moss just to give us some variety in our greens. And I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to ink my trees, and I don't have to be too terribly careful about this because of the technique that we're going to do, but I don't want to get too much. I want to watch the snow and not get green in where the snow is, so I'm going to be careful around the snowfall, but I don't have to be careful otherwise if I'm getting ink outside of my lines, because what we're going to do after we're done is drag an ink pad across the paper and basically black out the background. And I know that looks like a hot mess, but our next step is we're going to take an ink pad, and usually you grab a black ink pad and we're going to drag it across, and I'm just looking for this so I don't get my work surface all dirty. We're going to drag it across the paper so it inks up the background but does not get into the indentation. So we're going to lightly drag, and we're going to turn our paper and lightly drag, and turn our paper and lightly drag. And you want to grab a ink pad that is not a squishy one, because if you squish, you're going to get it where you don't want the ink. So we're just going to keep dragging and turning until we like the look of it. And I thought, instead of doing black, why not do a wintry night sky? And so I'm using Versafine Claire in Twilight. And again, you just want to keep dragging it across the paper gently without squishing, because you don't want to get the ink in our snowflakes. So there we go. That is version 1 of the blackout technique, and so there we got nice background going. I'm gonna have a bit of a cleanup, and then I'm gonna show you another option for doing the blackout technique. Next, I am gonna take an inky background and emboss it. And where did I put my embossing folder? Ah, here it is. Now, since this is a pre-inked background, I need to make sure I put it in correctly. So I want to make sure I put it in, yes, so that this is the debossed side. So this is the raised section on the embossing folder, and this is the depressed section. So I want to make sure I put it so that the ink side is facing the raised section. And this is a Tim Holtz Sizzix embossing folder. I think it's lace doily. And what I'm going to do is spritz the back. I'm not going to spritz the front because that's going to mess with our inked background. But wetting your paper generally helps with embossing, especially with 3D folders, because it loosens up the fibers of the paper a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and emboss this, and I'll be right back. And I've embossed it. It's really hard to tell. And I think for this one, I'm going to go with black. Yes, black. And I'm not sure how well this embossed. I'm still trying to figure out the best sandwich for doing the 3D embossing folders with my Big Kick. All right, so I've got Versafine Onyx Black, and we're going to see how this comes out. Hopefully it's going to work. Now, it kind of crinkled when it went through, so I'm going to try and flatten out the spots that are like folding back so that I can get ink on them. I came out pretty good. I feel like there's some spots that want to be darker black. Not bad. So there is another version of the blackout technique. So I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to clean up my mess again. And then we're going to move on to a different technique using embossing folders. Okay, so our next technique is using... So Simon Says Stamp has come out with a line of embossing folders with cutting dies. So they have dies that match the images that get embossed. And this one's Fancy Ornaments SFD 368. But if you don't have one of the ones that come with the dies that coordinate, and I've already gone ahead and die cut out all the pieces, and I'm gonna run them through. So basically what you do is you die cut your images out, lay them in the embossing folder, and I'm gonna get some low tack tape. Just to make sure you don't have any slippage. Now this is a 3D embossing folder, so it should be pretty good and not slip, but just in case, I don't want to have to redo this whole process. I'm going to add a little bit of tape just to keep it from slipping out of place. And I'm probably going to run this through a couple times. And I had it all laid out color-wise, how I wanted it to go. And now we're just going to have to redo that. All right, let's put the pink one down here. So yeah, I'm probably going to do it in 2 or 3 passes so that I don't have tape overlapping and all that good stuff. And so we're going to run it through, and it'll emboss the metallic pieces. So that's if you have the die and embossing folder. If not, so this is a very old Cuttlebug embossing folder, and honestly, I don't know if I've ever actually used this one. I've had it for ever, but it obviously doesn't have coordinating dies with it. So what I'm going to do is just take a piece of red paper for my Cardinal, and I'm going to stick it in the folder, and I'm going to run that through, and then we're going to fussy cut out the embossed image. So, and then I have a piece of light brown paper to do for the branch, And so we're gonna get the same look without having to have coordinating dies. So I'm gonna go and emboss all of this, and then I'll be back and we will put them together as finished cards. Okay, so we're all embossed. I did have a minor mishap when I did the bird. It shifted, and so I didn't get his legs, but I figured we can just come in and color those. So what I'm gonna do for the one I don't have a die for is just trim around the bird. I'm going to do the same thing for our branch, which I apparently didn't have it angled quite right because, let's get the tape off. I didn't quite get the very end of that branch, but since I'm going to come in and ink with some green ink, I figured it should be all right. So again, I'm just going to come in and cut it out. And I'm not going to be so particular about going in and getting all the little areas in between. All right, so we've got our branch cut out, and what I'm gonna do is grab a scrap piece of paper and do some blending. I'm gonna start by adding vintage photo to the branch part, just to give it a little bit more depth and interest. I feel like the bird could also use a little bit of love, so I'm gonna take some Distress Oxide Lumberjack Plaid and add it on, see if I can get a little bit more depth. Really not doing a whole heck of a lot. Then for the leaves, I'm gonna grab a little Rustic Wilderness, Forest Moss, and pine needles, and kind of mix those colors together and brush them on. I have a feeling I may have to go get another bit of brown emboss, that it's not going to work so great. I just do it over top of the blue, because let's see, where does that go? Yeah, that's not gonna work. All right, I'm gonna go back in a second and emboss the tip of the branch, because yeah, my hope that I could get away with it. Actually, you know what? I think I'm just going to cover it up with a sentiment. I think I'll just we'll glue that on, and I'll put a sentiment in the corner to cover that bit. I like that idea. All right, the pine cone definitely needs some more color as well. I think I'm going to grab a little walnut stain. That's going to go like that. I am going to grab a black brush pen. There we go. And I think I'm just gonna do and on the Cardinal, and I feel like the background needs some sprucing up. I'm gonna grab a little bit of broken china because I don't want to go too dark, and we're just gonna add some more depth to the background. And I'm gonna go over the snowflakes with something I haven't decided what yet to make them white. And I am gonna grab a dauber and ink the edges with the blue. And I know what I'm gonna use for the snowflakes. I've got the Sizzix Luster Wax in Ivory, and I'm just gonna use my finger to gently apply it on top of the snowflakes, which will give them a little shimmer. All right, so now we can glue on our branch. Thinking that needs more inking. You know what? I think I'm gonna grab some scorched timber. Let's go darker. And our Cardinal. All right, I'm gonna come back in with the brush pen because that leg is not connected. There we go. Gonna need to bring dogs in because they're getting ready to be loonies. All right, I need to find a sentiment to go across here. And then this one will be done. So let's put together our ornament one, which I'm just going with a plain white background since we've got all these lovely sparkly ornaments. This one, let's just trim that bit off. Oh, I so need to unclog my art glitter glue. All right, I switched from my art glitter glue to my Barely Arts glue because I need to unclog my art glitter glue because it's clogged right now and it's driving me a little crazy. So I'll use Barely Arts. You can use whatever adhesive you like for this. I don't know how well glue stick would work. I think your best bet is a liquid adhesive, or, you know, you could always, before you die cut, put, you know, like Xyron on the back of the paper so that it's self-adhesive. This is why I seldom do white backgrounds, is because I always end up making a mess on it. I don't know how well you can see it, but I got a little glue smooch. I'll try and get an eraser in there and erase that. All right, and now I am gonna grab a silver pen and go over run it along the strings to bring that out, because they kind of blend in too much. So that's technique number 2, using coordinating dies or fussy cutting out your images to pop them up. And yeah, before I finish out the video, I will get a sentiment to go here that'll cover up these cut off guys, because yeah, that's gonna bug me otherwise. Now with this one, you could always do just a couple of the ornaments and have them just pop out. And I'm actually thinking this would be kind of cool doing it against a black background. That might be really cool. I may need to do that. But yeah, there you go. Those are that technique. And I'm gonna do one more technique, I think, with the embossing folders, and then we'll call it quits for the day. So let me go get the stuff I need for that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I want to try one more technique, and this is an alcohol ink background that I did, and I've embossed it. And we're just going to come in and sand it. Now I'm not pressing too hard because I don't want to lose the embossing. I just want to like remove the ink from the embossed areas. So just bringing out the embossed areas by taking away the ink that's there. All right, I'm just gonna wipe it off to remove any dust and see where else I might want to try and bring out more of the pattern. I probably should have run this through a couple more times when I embossed it, because I didn't do the best job embossing this one. Could also be the paper. But I really kind of like that. I may make an effort at trying to emboss it again to see if I can bring out more of the image. See if I can line it up properly, and then I'm going to use tape to hold it in place and try to get it embossed one more time. I definitely feel like I should have more detail showing. I think that might have worked. So yeah, I don't know how well it's showing up on camera, but I did basically sand off the top layer to bring white back to where it was embossed. And I think this is just going to go into my stash of backgrounds because I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with it yet. And then let's see, where are our other pieces? All right, so we've got our embossing and sanding, which this I did with an alcohol ink background. You could also use a sandable paper. Like the metallic paper I used for die cutting here is the Tim Holtz Kraft metallic. So if I sanded these guys, underneath would be Kraft cardstock. So that is another option for sanding, but I just wanted to give this a try. And I don't know if I said, this was a technique I saw Tiffany Solara do, and I'll leave a link to her channel down below. I don't know if I'll be able to find the exact video. So we've got one. We've got our die cutting or fussy cutting and embossing with different colors. And I just took, this is Tim Holtz, I think it was a baseboard from a couple of years ago, and I peeled off a layer and glued that down because I felt Winter Wonderland worked perfect with our little Cardinal. And then we did our blackout technique. And so we did two versions, one where we used an inky background and did with black, and then one where we inked in the debossed area and then used blue. And I actually did another one that I had embossed. I inked it, and this one's kind of a little trippy because it shifted as I was embossing and didn't get as well embossed as I would have liked, but I did the same technique for that. So that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please do all the things that lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment down below. Thanks for joining me, and happy crafting.